Hey guys, Sugar John coming at you with another Diablo Immortal video. This video is going to be a look at Diablo Immortal. We're about a month and a few days, actually around a month and I think officially 8 days from the launch of Diablo Immortal. I want to kind of pull up some of the data that we have. The reason why I'm doing this a month and 8 days later is because I wanted to have the full month get recorded. So that way the data kind of represents the initial launch hype and then where it's at right now. I want to make sure that's a month timeline. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to kind of show you a broad spectrum, let you know what I think personally, and we're going to pull you guys and see what you guys think about the state of the game as well moving forward. All right, so I am currently live on Twitch, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to make this video while we're live because I feel like this is very prevalent information, as part of the data that I'm actually going to show is going to be part of the live streaming portion of this, right? Any game that gets launched or releases, there's a lot of initial hype. Everybody and their brother streams it, obviously trying to capture everything, capitalize on it. Historically speaking, any new game, people really want to go super hard right at the very first month or so, and then that's when you start seeing all the I quit because of so and so, where that video does like 3/4 more than everything else they did the entire time they were covering the game. It's kind of just the nature of the beast when it comes to content creators, streamers, just overall everything, right? Like Quinn69, he did it up to a point, and then he quit. That basically just skyrocketed, and we'll actually see him on part of the data. But the reason why we bring this up is because of this. That means we have a high influx on amount of downloads, amount of viewership, amount of people playing the game and interacting with the game right from the get-go, right? Because that is the norm. Now we're a month and 8 days later, so now the data is kind of trickling in, right? Now the honeymoon stage is over. Now people who are playing the game are playing the game because they enjoy playing the game. So now let's talk about where does the game actually stand and what are we actually seeing. So there's a few things I'm going to point out to you that might be a surprise to you and might make some other things make a little bit more sense. So let's go ahead and let's pull it up. So let's pull up the first thing that we're going to talk about. And I'm going to pull up this website. This is called Sensor Tower is the name of this website. I'll leave the link to these websites down below. That way, if you want to use them for yourself for other games, if you want to compare data for anything, the resources that I'm about to show you are really, really good for comparing and getting more information. So the first thing I'm going to pull up is this chart. Now, you may wonder what does this chart mean, John? This is a chart of Diablo Immortal. This is going to be for the Google Play Store. So as of right now, as of May, which is basically Google's launch, up until now, because this captures in 1 month time period. So this is basically, I think of this as launch in May to the end of June. 6 million downloads, $17 million revenue recorded on Google Play, okay? Now, this is just Google Play data. This is not iTunes. This is not Battle.net, okay? You can see here the overall review. You can see all the reviews that have been left for the game. It's alarmingly positive. The average game here is about, what is that, 3.7? And actually, if we were to click on this and we say, okay, let's go view this in the Google Play Store, you can see that this jives, right? The number right above my head says 3.7 stars, 682K reviews, 5 million plus downloads. All this math kind of jives, so that way you can kind of use this as a baseline if this information is going to be somewhat factual or actual for you. So this is the current trend. You'll see here that we started off positive, major positive, right? Game released, everybody's playing it, everybody's loving it, everyone's having fun. And then you can see where as we start getting like content creators like Quinn69, Asmongold, all the bigger names that are kind of getting into the game, you can see it's starting to trend downward. We're starting to get into the negative comments right here. This was back in the hiatus. I can't remember what day Quinn got his legendary gem, but that was basically when this starts to just fall off, right? Now we have an average. Now we're maintaining kind of an average. Oh, alarmingly, it's still going in the negative. We're June 23rd, and we're about a 2-to-1 ratio. We're almost 1-to-1 here by the end of June. As of right now, you're going to see here that we're about not a 1-to-2 ratio, but it's like 1 to 1.5 ratio. And this is where this is all going to balance out. Okay, and positive and negative. Basically, this is just like the positive and negatives of the game. Now, the other thing to note here is when the game launched, it was #1 on the download list, okay? as it keeps moving forward, we jumped all the way down to right now. It's currently number 241. And this is as of today. This is as of July 7th, 2022. So we went from number 1 to all the way down to 241. So what does this mean for the game as far as overall? Well, this is kind of what happens, right? The game comes out. It either A, does extremely well, everyone gets into it, they love it, they nail it. 2, it gets dunked on by other content creators and it just gets tanked. 3, they shoot themselves in the foot, the game fails. This is typically the way things happen. Diablo Immortal has been an interesting ride. I think a lot of this has been kind of dictated more so by the content creators and the crying and the whining and the begging for something different that wasn't what was given, which has really driven a lot of this reaction. Overall, though, notice that the positive reviews are still greater than negative reviews. Also notice that this is just for the Google Play Store, okay? Now, I could also go over here, and if I search in here and I say Diablo Immortal, we can see that on Apple, it's also gonna pop up, right? So here's the Apple version. On Apple, it had 8 million downloads, 2 million more, which is alarming, considering you can use emulators to do multi-instances on Diablo Immortal, which I'll do a video on, that's on the docket. So you actually have more downloads from Apple. You also had more revenue generated from Apple, which is also interesting because of some other things that we'll talk about on a much, much further date. Generally speaking, though, that's quite a bit of revenue reported within the first month and the amount of downloads. We're at 14 million downloads, right? Total for the game, just off of Android and iTunes alone. Now, notice the same exact trend here, only this one it's a little closer to par, honestly, and then it kind of tapers out here to about the exact same as Google. So overall, the negative reviews are kind of getting down there. It started off as number 1, again, on the charts when it released. It was the highest download on that day. If we go all the way down to current day on July 7th, we're at 188th on the list, which actually is better than Google Play. Google Play was at 200 and something, so it's actually still 100 spots above on Apple than it was on Google Play. So the trend is kind of normalizing, and that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing normalized data right here. We're seeing that now we're going to kind of go down here and notice that we got a little bit of lulls, we got some peaks and valleys. We're going to start to normalize, and it's really going to start to hit its own par of where it's going to land. Now, one other piece of data that you can kind of use for this is you can see this exact trend with this website, which is solely Gnome. This will show that here's your peak. And then from here, you can kind of go in here. This is your average, right? You can see as of the 19th, the average has kind of been set. This is about where we're going to be, and it's about 2,000 viewers a day at a peak. And notice that you have that peaks and valleys. That means that that is the amount of people that are actually playing the game and interacting, right? So that's pretty even. That's also the amount of viewers as well. So notice that your average viewers is what we're actually looking at here. But most people, when they're watching, are also playing, right? And the trend should follow that suit. Because as you play a game, there should be a high and there should be a low, depending on the amount of hours playing. If everyone's botting, then it'll always just be a high, right? That'll be like games like Lost Ark, New World, other games like that where people are writing macros to bot. Diablo Immortal is banning for that. So that's why we see these peaks and valleys, because you're seeing your streamers come on and play with the peaks and valleys. You're also noticing that overall, now that we're normalizing, the amount of viewers is actually going up. We can see that we're basically up. Average viewers is up to 8,647, which is up 14.2% of launch. The amount of broadcasters has went down. We've lost 1,400 average broadcasters, which that kind of goes into people who have quit the game. Remember at the very beginning of the video, I was talking about game launches and everyone gets super hyped. They try to just cash in as much as they can on a game, dog it, do whatever they got to do, make their I quit video, rack in the money, and then rinse and repeat on another game. Kind of is following suit a little bit with this, right? Overall, I mean, it is what it is, but the data doesn't lie. So you can see where people are actually starting to play the game more and getting more average viewers and just average everything, really. Hours broadcasted, people are getting more and more broadcast hours in because they're playing the game longer and longer. They're doing more viewers. Less people are covering it, which is pretty good. Obviously, max viewers, that is the number that's going to always get influenced. It's going to be super hard to ever top what the peak of the game launch is ever going to be. So being at set the ceiling at 1,008 or 108,000. Sorry, it's pretty good in my opinion. But overall, you can see that downward trend. But then if you look at this one right here, that's right above my head, you can see where it's kind of normalizing. Okay, this is going to be just for streaming content. This is like your entertainment. This is like me recording this video currently on Twitch. Now, if we come over here, you can kind of see a better breakdown of that. And this is streamcharts.com. This kind of covers almost the same data, but just in a different view. So you'll notice that viewers currently, as of right now, this is at 8 p.m. EST. There's 2,031 viewers for Diablo Immortal, including my channel as I'm streaming this. Peak viewers, 242, peak channels, so on and so forth. You can kind of see top live streamers right now. JT is the top live, and then from there, it kind of dwindles down. Not a whole lot of viewers per individual channel. However, this is going to be pretty much the norm. You can see where this is the peak, and now we're going to start to buffer out. So what does this mean? This means that the game is going to slowly taper into where it needs to be, or where it's going to actually land for the game's longevity in life. Now, one last thing that we're going to pull up and kind of show you is we're going to pull up this chart here, and this will just show the overall drop of the amount of the position of the game in today's charts. And with that being said, you can kind of see the downward trend and about how far it's falling, right? Number one from launch, and within a month we're at 244. So if we stay with that trend, we're gonna fall off pretty quickly. However, within the first month, we're still in today's rank. We're still in a top free rank. So don't forget that there are more than one scheduled parts of this game. If you could see on the left here, you could actually see where it kind of shows what countries this is being broadcasted or the data is being recorded from. And you can see that top new free game, it's no longer ranked. However, top free game, it's ranked. The reason why I'm showing that is because it's no longer considered a new game because it's a month old. Now we are going to get into the actual longevity and life of Diablo Immortal, and we're going to see what happens. I feel like right now with season 2 just starting, with the downward trend here, and then you can already see where this is already trying to normalize itself, and this is halfway through the month, we're going to have a good lifespan. Now keep in mind, this particular data is streaming. This is not actual download engagement. However, generally speaking, if this stays pretty relevant, it's pretty current, that usually is a representation of how the game is doing itself, right? Because you won't have that many viewers versus broadcasters if the game is not being successful and not working. We can jump back here and we can see the game's obviously being successful. It's making a fortune. It is literally printing money. So I think overall, Diablo Immortal is going to have that longevity. And you know what? I feel like over the next month, maybe 2 months, we'll kind of see them go back on a few things that they said and probably change this game a little bit more drastic than what everyone's thinking. And I think a lot of people are going to find out pretty quickly that maybe they should have given it just a little bit more time before they made some harsh judgments. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Does this data interest you? Is this something that you like to see or like to know more of? What about the revenue? Do I need to look up the revenue chain so you can kind of see like where the money's getting spent, what it's getting spent on? I do know a few sites that I can use to get that data. Let me know down in the comments below. I'm curious to see what you think and how you feel. If this is the trend that you thought would happen with Diablo Immortal, or if you thought it would just be an immediate downward trend all the way to the ground instead of kind of leveling out within the first month of launching.